In today's video, we have lots of NHL news and rumors around the league to discuss, including some trade talk around teams like Edmonton, Toronto, Pittsburgh, and Winnipeg. Plus, we have some very interesting comments from former Canucks head coach Bruce Boudreau and Elias Pettersson, speculating that he may not be happy. Plus, we also have some unfortunate news on Habs prospect Joshua Waugh. We'll discuss a scenario that unfolded today that could wind him in a little bit of hot water. It's difficult to say. Plus, Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault, two of the prize signings of the Nashville Predators, have spoken out about their team struggles starting 0-5 so far this campaign. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here today. Of course, we're doing another kind of makeshift TSH studio kitchen type news recap this evening. It's been another very busy weekend here in my household, and this is the best we can do for right now. Back on track tomorrow with the regular studio video. At least that's the intent. We have lots to discuss. Let's start with the Winnipeg Jets today, honoring longtime Jets player Bryan Little, of course, who had to retire early due to injuries. Little was a player that had a pretty solid career, not a very big guy, but played with the Atlanta franchise and, of course, moved with the team to Winnipeg when they relocated back to become the Jets 2.0. He recently, we knew the news, we had heard from Winnipeg that they were going to sign him to a one-day contract, and then, of course, do a special evening to honor him, which was today. And it was nice just to see him. He actually was in full gear, out for warm-ups and everything. That was great to see, like I said, especially when you get players that, kind of had to retire not due to their own wishes and kind of, unfortunately because of injuries and whatnot. It's kind of, nice to see them at least get that moment. So nice to see how everything went down there in Winnipeg. Some updates from the Ottawa Senators today. Defensive prospect Thomas Hamara, who had been playing in the American Hockey League because he is eligible being a European player, was actually reassigned back to the OHL, so he'll go back for his final year of junior, his overage year. So he'll go back to the OHL. The Sens also returned Mads Søgaard back to the American Hockey League today. So as much as they're, young, up-and-coming netminder, you normally wouldn't, kind of be excited about one of those prospects going back. But that means Linus Ullmark is ready. The Sens will embark on their road trip, first road trip of the season. They did have an away game in Montreal early in the season, but that was just a quick, up and back given the close proximity. But this will be their first extended road trip of the season where they go on the road to play Utah, I believe Colorado, and Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. It's going to be a big road trip for them. They sit 3-2. They're in good position in the standings. But, a disastrous road trip could put them under 500. A really successful one could put them well above. A mediocre one, you're hovering around 500. Like, you got to, the first 10, 15 games of the season for the Sens and any team that's trying to move forward and get into the playoffs is vital. Like I've said it numerous times, you can't win the cup in October, November, but you can lose your right to play for it. And it's important for them to get off to a good start. And certainly their last three games without Linus Ullmark, they won 2 out of 3, surprisingly, but they were not in their typical fashion. Some high-scoring affairs. So Ullmark can come in and hopefully settle things down. Ridley Gregg is still out, so they did recall as well Cole Reinhardt to be like their extra forward for the road trip. Now, as I mentioned, we had Steven Stamkos, the primary one, and one small comment from Jonathan Marchessault, of course, 2 longtime NHL veterans, both Stanley Cup champions, both newly signed UFAs that went to Nashville today, or not today, but in the offseason when they made a big splash July 1. The Predators really took the NHL by surprise on July 1 on Free Agent Frenzy and did some big-time spending, and they just seemed like they were getting everybody. They got Steven Stamkos, they got Jonathan Marchessault, they brought in Brady Shea, and of course, not long before that, they announced they were keeping UC Saros, signed him to an 8-year deal, which resulted in a Yaroslav Askarov trade because he didn't want to wait forever to get a chance at the NHL. And here we are. Like, they had a big-time spending spree on some quality players, quality people, quality talent. But so far, it's not working out. The team is 0-5. And in the modern era here, no team has started 0-5 and gotten into the playoffs. So the odds are against them, statistically. Doesn't mean it can't happen. They could be the first one to do it. There's lots of roadway here, lots of hockey left. But it's certainly not the start that they were envisioning by any means. I mean, I don't think any of us predicted the Nashville Predators to be struggling this bad 0-5 to start the season. So the comments here from Steven Stamkos, like I said, are quite, I wouldn't call them shocking. It's not like he went out there and really went off the cuff. And for a veteran guy like him who's got lots of respect, he can make these comments and it come across the right way. But he says, you have to earn it. You have to play a full 60. I think it's been a little too sporadic in terms of efforts in games, and we'll have to look to change that. We can't just keep saying the same things over and over in terms of the effort was there. We had a lot of good shots. We had good looks. At some point, we've got to just go out and do it. And he couldn't be more right. I mean, you hear that the same a lot of teams. Oh, we lost, but we're not really that disappointed. We played well. We had a lot of good looks, a lot of good shots, just didn't get the bounces today. You can only say that so much before you're like, okay, it's not about the bounces anymore after a large sum of games. Now, we're only 5 in, but still, it's enough that Stamkos is absolutely bang on here. Jonathan Marchessault also, when commented, referred to that the team is a bit fragile. So it certainly seems like they are letting, getting behind in games and losing kind of get to them a little bit, and that also needs to change as well. Obviously, we know head coach Andrew Brunette and GM Barry Trotz. Last year they canceled the big concert trip that they had planned when they were going to Vegas. They were supposed to go to the Sphere for a U2 concert. They canceled that on them because the team wasn't playing well. Then they went on a crazy run, and they got into the playoffs, and they had a really strong finish to their season. Obviously, I don't know, maybe they need to do the opposite this year. Maybe they should plan a concert trip. I don't know what they got to do. But certainly they need to get back to their ways of traditional Nashville hockey. I think they need to remember that they're also have a very strong defensive structure. Like, they have a lot of good defensive players. And obviously, when it comes to the offense, I can understand the struggles. I mean, it took Stamkos, I think it was the last game we got his first goal. I believe Marchessault as well. It took a while. But, when you make that many changes, especially significant ones, it doesn't always gel on the first game. It takes a bit of time. But to hear the veterans kind of speaking out, the newly signed guys, because, it's not like that team was lacking leadership. You've got Yossi, you've got Ryan O'Reilly, you got Philip Forsberg. So, they got some guys there that they know how to win. They've been there a while. They're known for being part of the core leadership group. And the new guys are coming in and obviously speaking out here. So certainly we hope to see the Predators turn things around. I'd love to know what everybody thinks about the Stamkos remarks. It's not even, like I said, he's a veteran guy with a lot of respect, so people are going to listen when he speaks up. But where he's so new to the team, is there any chance I take this the wrong way within the room? I wouldn't think so, but I'd love to know what everybody out there kind of thinks. As I mentioned as well, Habs prospect Joshua Waugh might find himself in some hot water. We don't really know what happened or the full story here just yet, but it's going to be something to follow up on. Obviously, we know he didn't have a terrific training camp and was sent down to the minors in Laval. And apparently he had an autograph session that was signed up. That he was supposed to make an appearance today. There was around 60 people that waited for him, and he no-showed the event. So it's not a good look. Not to say that there couldn't be a legit reason. Sometimes things happen that are understandable, and depending on what it was, maybe, they didn't have an appropriate time to get an update to these people. I don't know. But you would think, let's say there was some sort of, a family emergency or something that just kind of makes sense why he suddenly last minute couldn't appear. You would think they'd have a means to get an update to the location in the business where he's supposed to appear to let the fans know, so that nobody's standing around wasting their time. I would think with the organization that if there is no good excuse and this was just an oversight or something, with no real rhyme or reason to it, I would expect him to face some sort of discipline, but I don't know. They may not make too big a deal of it. I don't know. He is young, but you expect these guys to be mature when they're supposed to make appearances. So, again, maybe not a huge deal, but it's something that we should probably follow up on to see if anything does come from it. Time will tell on that one. Now, another piece of information that was interesting, of course, we know the Vancouver Canucks are a team that's worth monitoring this year. They took a big step last year. A lot of people think they're going to take another step this year. And so far, they've been okay. Of course, playing without Thatcher Demko. But, Elias Pettersson hasn't really been Elias Pettersson for a while, dating back to last year. He got his... some thought the contract was maybe a distraction. He didn't, early in the year, he didn't really want to talk about it. Finally, they kind of pushed him into thinking, if you don't talk to us about this and get it sorted, we may trade you. There were some pretty serious rumors last year before Pettersson signed his extension that they were having trade talks because they were worried he wasn't going to sign. So they have to kind of do their due diligence and have plans A, B, C, and D in place in case things don't materialize. Their plan was never to trade him. They wanted to sign this guy, and they had the money lined up to give it to him. They just wanted to make sure he was going to go forward with it. They had to have, like I said, plan B and C ready just in case. And they started having some prelim, very early trade conversations with other teams. I believe there was something in the works with the Carolina Hurricanes. And at one point, it's believed that the Canucks went to Pettersson and said, listen, we need to talk contract. This is not going the way we want here. We really like your game. We want you to be a part of the long-term solution here. We have a trade in place that we have no choice but to consider this trade if you're not going to sign. Because we have to do what's best and right for the organization. And that kind of talked him into signing. And a lot of people thought once that was out of the way, maybe things would change. And they didn't. He just doesn't seem to be himself. And his former coach, Bruce Boudreau, who under Boudreau, Pettersson did phenomenal. And he certainly helped resurrect that team for a while. They did obviously fall back off, which has resulted in another change and led to Rick Tocchet getting the job there. But he said that he appeared on Overdrive in Toronto-based programming with Brian Hayes and Jeff O'Neill and Jamie McLennan, and he said that he doesn't think Pettersson's happy. Now, he said that he hasn't talked to Pettersson. This is not information coming directly from him, but knowing him the way he does and knowing that he can read his body language very, very well, that he just doesn't seem to be having a good time and he doesn't seem to be happy. He said when he was there, what made Pettersson tick is he wants to be the absolute best. He wants the toughest, best assignments. Like when they play the Oilers, he would say, make sure you play me head-to-head against McDavid. I want to kill penalties. I want to be part of this, and I want to be the best. I don't know if he's feeling overshadowed by like Miller, Hughes, and whatnot. I don't know. I can't imagine he'd have issues with his teammates being incredibly successful. But last year you saw the kind of re-emergence of Brock Besser. JT Miller really took a big step. Quinn Hughes really took a big step. I can't imagine how that could impact him negatively. And I don't really think that's what Bruce is getting at. But if he's not happy, I'm not saying this is going to lead to a trade, but you have to wonder at some point here, Pettersson's play is going to start bringing up more rumors about, do you want to be here? He signed a long-term deal indicating he did, but based on how things have gone, there's suddenly a lot of question marks there. So be curious to see where this goes. Like I said, I trust Bruce's opinion because he knows him extremely well, having coached him. And, he's probably not wrong. I think it's a legit reason to think that Pettersson's not happy. But what is it exactly he's not happy about? Is it something that can be addressed and fixed internally? I don't really think it's very premature to suggest it could lead to a trade. But over time, when players aren't happy and then it affects the team, it usually leads to change. So it makes you wonder, right? So we'll see. Just another situation worth monitoring here. Now in Pittsburgh, of course, we've talked a lot about the goaltending and the fact that Tristan Jarry is somebody they'd probably like to find a way to move, but again, very, very difficult to do given his poor play in the contract. But there's another player there that's kind of been going down the same road that's definitely worth monitoring. I don't know that Dubas is going to try to move him, real quick here. I think this is something to take a while. But Michael Bunting appears to be a bit in the doghouse. Bunting, of course, knows Dubas, signed him in Toronto, had great success, led to a free agent contract that the Leafs couldn't afford to keep him. He signed in Carolina, gets traded to Pittsburgh, was expected to kind of nail down a top 6 role in the second line, and he's lost that spot now. He's taken off the second line. He was a healthy scratch today against Winnipeg, and things are just not going well for Bunting in Pittsburgh. So we know that the Penguins as a team are not doing phenomenal either. So I do expect Dubas to kind of, I don't think they're going to wait too long here before, if they think that they need other changes, they're going to want to do everything they can to get these guys in the playoffs. They know how bad and hungry Crosby and Malkin Letang want this, and they're still playing well. It's a supporting cast again that needs upgrading in some certain areas. So we will see what happens, but Michael Bunting's situation in Pittsburgh is also something that's very much worth monitoring. Now in Winnipeg, of course, we know that the Jets have had an incredibly hot start, and it's kind of led them to already talking internally, according to NHL insiders, about wanting to add a number 2 center. Now, it's something that I would think that maybe this time around, because it's been something that we've seen the Jets and GM Kevin Cheveldayoff have to do time and time again. But it sounds like the information we're getting from NHL insiders is that they may not wait until the trade deadline this year to make that move. I would be more apt to say that they're already exploring those ideas and targeting, trying to determine who they should target for that role. They've had an amazing start. They've proven, especially with teams like Nashville off to a cold start. Colorado has struggled. The Jets might be able to get a real, lead here. Like, even the Dallas Stars will be a team like right there with them. But, Dallas and Winnipeg might be able to pull ahead. Nashville and Colorado might not be the threats this year, at least early look that they were expecting. So, in all honesty, the higher you can finish in the standings, the better chance you have of moving deeper in the playoffs. And with the Jets, we've seen some good regular seasons lately. It's the playoff success that the fan base is kind of yearning for here. So, at the end of the day, we know that the number 2 center spot, like I said, it's something that's been on go for some time. So, it sounds like they're having those conversations now to get ahead of it. And when it comes to Nikolai Ehlers, there's still no extension talks. And as much as a lot of people predict it, and Winnipeg media thought there was a really high chance he gets traded this year, if they keep playing the way they are, you have to think that they're not going to be willing to move him and kind of subtract. They want to add. So I don't know what this is going to do for his future. They very well could end up using him as their own rental. If they feel like they're going to get in the playoffs and have a chance to make a run, they're not going to want to weaken themselves. The only way they use Ehlers as a trade target now to get this center or another top player on this team is if it's a deal they absolutely can't refuse and feel like they're better no matter what. So we will see where that goes. I know but the Penguins going to Winnipeg today for the first visit of the season. Jets fans, I think, were hoping to see Rutger McGroarty. Of course, we saw these two teams hook up on a deal in the offseason, trading the former first-round pick for Penguins first-rounder Braden Yager. And we know that a big part of that was the fact that McGroarty won NHL time and wanted to be able to play NHL games right away. Thought he had earned that, and the Jets were a little bit reluctant to guarantee it. I don't think they were reluctant to do it if he came to training camp and felt that he earned it. But they weren't going to, make special exceptions and weaken their team if they felt he didn't make them better at the time. So he gets traded, and a few games in, and boom, he gets sent down to the minors. And the Winnipeg fans today were not letting that go. They were chanting, "Where's Rutger?" during the game. I do have a clip that I shared from that game on my X account if you want to check out the video. I personally got a kick out of it. I think Jets fans really kind of enjoyed heckling him too after everything that saga went through and his crazy departure from Winnipeg. Now, also Edmonton, Toronto, Timothy Liljegren still seems like a real possibility. Another Athletic article from Alan Mitchell suggesting that he does expect the Oilers to, maybe not right away here, but in the short term, likely make a move on the blue line. I think it's probably killing them to see how well Philip Broberg is doing in St. Louis. He's on an absolute heater, really contributing at a high level. They had him penciled in as being the partner for Darnell Nurse. That was their intention all year. But of course, they took too long to get him signed because of their cap situation. The Blues took advantage and he's gone. And I do think that Broberg had some reluctance to sign anyway. We know that he had asked for a trade before, never materialized, and certainly something that he was willing to kind of push here, So it's unfortunate. He could be that great partner right now for Nurse. and he's not there. So right now, those offer sheets for Holloway and Broberg look pretty decent. And, the Oilers' blue line has not been great. They finally got on the board, and they get some better hockey under their belts. Then they lost again. So we will see what the Oilers do, but still some belief Timothy Liljegren could very well be their target in Toronto. We heard Elliot Friedman say that the Leafs are not in a hurry to trade Liljegren. He did get into the lineup and get a chance to play recently, so certainly, there's that. You wonder, is that a showcase, or is this them really trying to see if they can integrate him back in? We know that there was some speculation about him having a chance to talk to other teams to try to find a trade, and it still seems like I wouldn't call it 100% inevitable, but very, very likely that he gets dealt. But it's just not a rush. The Leafs are not out there trying to do it for tomorrow, but when they do it in the very near future, which is what is expected, Edmonton seems like a very, very logical landing spot. So we'll see what happens there. Those two teams have a lot of connections of players switching teams in recent years, so why not one more? Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.